Brace the pain like I'm Nagato. Got no father like I'm Naruto. Keep the blade on me, Ichigo. Who really wanna go toe for toe? TTR from Tokyo. Diamonds whipping up on the stove. Lucky man like a 4-leaf clove. Diamonds wanna go.
Hello everybody, this is Nagato's Revenge and welcome back to my channel. For today's tutorial, I basically have a very special video for y'all guys today. TheFlow has just released his hack for 3.69 and 3.70 firmware Vitas and also the PlayStation TV as well. And now what that means is basically as of currently as May 5th, 2019, every PlayStation Vita can be hacked. And with this new exploit called the Trinity exploit host, there's some prerequisites you need to do before doing the steps, and I'll get into all the nitty-gritty as the video goes along. But as shown here, I have my PlayStation Vita in real time showing that I'm on 3.70 firmware. But what you need if you are in the United States is the local midnight PSP demo, which you could either download via the PSN store, whether on your PC, and I'll showcase that in a little bit, or you could just go into the PS store as well on your PlayStation Vita or PS TV of your choice. But now with that being said, let's go ahead and hit the PC. Alright guys, assuming that you're on your PC as of right now, the steps what you want to do is go ahead and open up Google Chrome. And the reason why we need to open up Google Chrome so we can download our files, which are shown here on my desktop, and I explain a little bit more once we open it up. So as shown here, any links and any downloads and anything I'll use in this video will be in the link in the description below. And shouts out to TheOfficialFlow and also Yif and Lou just for helping out with the Vita scene with many of the exploits that they donated to, all of us. But with that being said, let's go ahead and focus on the Trinity hack. So as stated here, the Trinity is a public jailbreak for the PlayStation Vita, which supports the latest firmwares 3.69 and 3.70. This exploit chain consists of 3 stages: the MIPS kernel exploit, the PSP emulator escape, and the ARM kernel exploit. But with that being stated, let's go ahead and start with the requirement. So your device has to be on firmware 3.69 or 3.70. If you're on a lower firmware, please use H-Encore instead. What the flow means by this is stating that if your guys are on 3.60 to like 3.65, go ahead and use the the original Henkaku exploit or H-Encore of that matter, and then go from Henkaku Enso. If your guys between like 3.65 to like 3.68, make sure you use like the H-Encore method as well. But for today, we're just going to be focusing on the newest exploit, which is Trinity, which is for 3.69 and 3.70. Now for the second thing, which goes for me, since I have a PlayStation 1000 series, aka the fat OLED model, I have to have a memory card. So for y'all guys, if y'all don't know how to determine if your PlayStation Vita is an OLED model, if you just look on your Vita and just flip it over and you see a little serial number, if it says PCH1001, basically you have the fat model. If you have like 2000 or 1, basically you have the PlayStation Vita 2000 model, and that doesn't have the OLED screen, and it does look different from the original PS Vita. Also, because what is special for the PlayStation TV and also PlayStation Vita 2000 series, basically they both came with internal memory. I think it's just like 1 GB internal memory, so it doesn't require a memory card. Also, for this process as well, you need your device to be accessible to the PlayStation Store. So if you do have a banned Vita, which is like 1 in a million, but basically you need access to the PlayStation Store so we could download these demos right here, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a second. So for example, if depending on what region I should state, go ahead and download these demos. So for me, I downloaded the local midnight carnival PSP demo, and if I go ahead and type here on the side, I basically have the PSN store link as well for all of my USA users. What you would do here is just go ahead and download basically from your Vita. I'll just say purchase this game, go ahead and check out, and then you get automatically download it to your Vita, or go into the PSN store on your PlayStation Vita and download that as well. The reason why we need this is basically this is going to be the start of our hack, and either as the flow stated, go ahead and use 3 of these games as well, due to the fact certain PSP games may not have the bilinear feature, which is I guess required for this hack as well. So if you guys are in the UK, go ahead and use 8Quest. If you guys basically are in the USA, like I stated before, go ahead and use LocalRoco. And if y'all guys are from Japan, go ahead and use E7. But getting that out the way, assuming that y'all follow those directions correctly, what you want to do if you're on 3.69, and I'm gonna get a little bit more in detail to this, go ahead and do the first option. And I know it may sound crazy to some people, but go ahead and do this, just because if you have any errors with QCMA, it may ask you to just update your system to the latest firmware and stuff like that, and it may, you know, not work correctly. So that's why I'm going with this option. And since I've already upgraded my Vita to 3.70, this is what we're going to be going off of in this tutorial. But if you guys do decide to stay on 3.69, what you need to go is to settings on your Vita, go to network, go to Wi-Fi settings, and then go ahead and type both of these DNSs. And the reason why we're going to be using those two DNSs as well is to block any updates from PlayStation Network. That's the reason why if you guys are on 3.69 to go ahead and do this step, because this will run into some errors while we go into basically in depth and more into the tutorial. So assuming you guys follow the requirements, you're on 3.69, 3.70, your Vita is basically, you determine if it was a 1000 series or you'll have a PSTV in 2000. You figure that out. Basically, you got your demos, and then you determine if you're on 3.69 what you want to do. What we want to do now is go ahead and get into the whole installation process. So right here, you could just go to these two links, go ahead and click QCMA. I'll do it right now so you can view on the screen. And basically, depending on if you having OS or you on, you know, basically an Apple computer, have Mac OS, Sierra, or if you're on Windows, go ahead and choose depending of what version you want. And then if I go back here, do the same thing for the Psvimgtools. If you go here to one release, and then you basically just go ahead and scroll down. So if you're on Linux, go ahead and click that zip, download that one. If you're on Windows 64-bit, go ahead and download that one, so forth and so forth. But assuming that you guys downloaded both of those files, now we could go ahead and head to our desktop. First thing what we want to do now is go ahead and set up Qcma Setup.exe. You have to be administrators to do this process on your PC as well. As shown here, basically it's doing the setup process, so it's basically unpacking the data to my PC, and it may take a little while for you guys as well. Shouldn't take too long. And now I may ask you to select your language of choice. Since I'm from the United States, I'm choosing English. Go ahead and just hit next. You can read through this stuff, but I'm just going to go ahead and hit I agree, and then you could install wherever you want to your PC. I'm just going to install it to my C drive. Go ahead and hit next. Go ahead and hit install. Basically, let me go ahead and hit retry. Oh, the reason why it's doing this for me, guys, is because I have the program open. So if I quit, let me see if I retry again. So yeah, you wouldn't get that error right there. I just already had QCMA previously already installed for this tutorial. But once it basically installs for you, you get this second window right here called Device Driver Installation Wizard. Go ahead and hit next. Go ahead and hit finish. And then you could either hit run QCMA and also create a desktop shortcut just to be easier for in the future if you guys wanted to use QCMA. And what this is doing is basically reading all of my directories that's on my computer and basically creating directories as well. So once that's done, you basically get a little notification and it will say that a bunch of items in the database has been acquired. What we want to do now is go ahead and just extract the zip either with WinRAR, or basically since it's a .zip file you wouldn't even need it, but just go ahead and just right click over it and then go ahead and hit extract, and then you'll get the Psvimgtools. So once we have that, let's go ahead and go back to Google Chrome and then read the next step, and I'll go over here. So the next step, what we need to do is check QCMA, and then within the QCMA settings, we need to basically use this version for updates and put it to 0.00. And this basically is going to spoof the system check. What we want to do now is go ahead and hit this arrow on your PC if you're on Windows 10. Right click over QCMA and go to settings. And now if we go to other, what we want to do now is go ahead and basically make sure that your firmware is 0.0, aka up to date, and make sure that it's already on this selection. And then from there you could just hit OK. And now what we want to do is go ahead and back onto our PS Vita, and then I'll explain a little bit more about the third step. I'll meet you guys back onto the PlayStation Vita for that. So what we need to do now is go ahead and take your PlayStation Vita, connect it to your PC via the USB cable or the charging cable, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in the video. Alright guys, so since you guys are back onto your PlayStation Vita, make sure your USB is connected from your Vita to your PC. And now what we want to do is go ahead and hit Content Manager and then go ahead and start up the program as well. Now what we want to go to is go ahead and hit Copy Content. It may take a little while for it to connect, but once it connects guys, where we want to go to is PlayStation Vita System to PC, then Applications, and then PSP/Other, and then you should see your local midnight game that you downloaded via from the PSN store. This process may take a little while as shown here. It may take like 10 to 20, 30 seconds depending on how fast the transfer speed is from your PC. But once the process is done, what we're going to go to is our PC and then do the next step. And from this step, this is where the magic really starts to happen. And then once that process is done, I'll meet y'all guys right back onto the PC. Alright guys, assuming that you are back on your PC and you successfully transferred over your demo of your choice for your respective region, what you want to do now is go ahead and hit this little arrow right here and then click on this little PlayStation Vita icon and just go ahead and hit refresh database. This is not required, but it's just a very good idea just to get this started due to the fact that your game may not show up on the first time. So just by refreshing the database, it basically will give you a little notification as when it's done. So in my case, 505 items has been found. So basically this process will help us find our game. What we want to do now is go ahead on our desktop. You can just go ahead and create a new folder, make it random, and then basically right here, in my case, I named the dummy folder for copy. We're going to be needing this later. Just go ahead and click on it, and now where we want to go to is basically our documents on basically this Windows tab. And now where we want to go from is the PlayStation Vita folder right here. Go to P game, and this little ALOID, this is very important, and this is this is where the magic is going to start happening. So what we need to do is go ahead and rename it, or not rename it, just go ahead and hit rename. Go ahead and hit Control-C, open up Notepad for a second, and just copy and paste that. Your number will be different than mine since it's always special for a certain PSN account. So your PSN account ALOID will be different than mine's, for example. Once that's done, go ahead and go into your ALOID account, and then depending on your content ID of your game, yours will be different. So this is Midnight Carnival, or local Midnight Carnival. The easiest way on how to tell what the game is if you go to here, SE_system, you'll see basically the little icon. So this little icon 0PNG, if I scroll right here, make this a little bigger and click it on again, oh, it probably won't do it since the picture is small, but you can tell it's local from that, just to verify that your game is showing up. Now what you want to do is go ahead and take this file right here, just go ahead and Control-C, and now just go ahead and paste it into this copy, or basically this folder right here. The reason why we're going to do this is due to the fact that once we start to mess with the Psvimgtools, we want to have a base copy. So if we do mess up, or if you guys do mess up on this process, you have somewhere to start from. So once that's done, you could basically exit out the copy tool, go ahead and Control-A and copy this ID, the one that you just copied, to your text pad. And where we want to go to is this website right here, and this is also on the GitHub as well. I think this is step 6. So what we want to do now is go ahead and take our AID, go ahead and copy and paste it right here. Just go ahead and hit submit. And then basically we get this string of code and characters right here. This code right here is very important because this will allow us to decrypt our PSP demo of choice, which mine is local. And what we want to do now is just go ahead and paste this to our TXT as well. We can just leave this right here on the second line. And now where we want to go to now is basically the 7th step. So what we need to focus on is this string of code right here. So you just could go here on your GitHub, go ahead and hit Control-C. And now basically we're going to go ahead and copy it onto our text file. So what we need to do is now just go ahead and copy this again, and then where it says your key, aka this is your decryption key, just go ahead and delete it right here. Go ahead and paste it, and now you could just go ahead and leave this for right now. what we need to do now is go ahead, back out, go to our, or we could re-zip our PNG tools. I have to do that real quick because I was testing this out. Hopefully it won't extract out to my desktop. Oh, it did by accident. That's fine. Let me just go ahead and do this real quickly, and it should extract into this folder. Let me just go ahead and hit cancel on that. And now basically right here, guys, let me delete this out real quick. You should basically, once you extract this out, your PSV image tools should look like this on your desktop. What we want to do is from our copy folder with our game in it, go ahead and hit Control C. You can minimize that and just paste it into this little folder right here. And now what we want to do, guys, is very simple. Is once we have our PSV image tools right here, we just go ahead and hit Shift, scroll all the way down, but not basically scroll all the way down to our game. Basically just drag and drop into our content ID folder, and within that folder go ahead and click on to it right here, and in our address bar right here, if we hit CMD, this is where all the magic is really going to happen. From our little txt file that we set up with our decryption key, we could just go ahead and copy and paste by hitting Control C, and then from here just go ahead and hit enter. And now if you did this correctly, it should be creating a file into this little directory right here. So, and I'll show you guys as it states right here, it should actually create two files. So as shown here, so it should create this little PBOOT.PBP file and also this file right here as well. And if we go ahead and minimize this, you should get this little folder game_DEC, and basically this is the path that we should be focused on. So you could just leave this path right here, guys. And then, as like I stated before, this is what has shown if you created it. Now what you want to do is go ahead and download Trinity. So this is the 8th step of the process. And now from here, we could go ahead and hit show in folder. So this is in my downloads folder. Let me see. No, okay, there we go right here. We'll just go ahead and drag that file into our desktop for a second, and then we'll read along on the next step. So basically, once you got the 7th step done, what we want to do now is go ahead and download the Trinity file, which we did, and now we have to copy the PBOOT.PBP file, or PBP file, can't even talk today, and then put this into this certain directory, which is pretty easy. So now what we want to do is go ahead and then let me rename the file, since I think I downloaded 2 by accident earlier. Just go here, and now where we want to go to is just go ahead and hit Control C, go to our PSV image tools, go to our content ID of our game, go to game_DEC, go here. Right here, guys, it basically should be the same directory, and let's just verify for one time, because it's never too bad or never too wrong to double check yourself. So let me go to which step we're on. I'm so confused. All right, yeah. Or oops, this is maybe the wrong one. Yep, this is the temporary step. So where we need to basically drop this file is right here, and then from that step right there, you should have the existing file. So as shown here, you should have your EB or eboot.pb, this file right here, and also the Vita path txt. And now what we want to do is go ahead and we have to re-encrypt the game. So this is pretty easy as well. So all we have to do is just go ahead and hit Control C, go to our txt right here, and we can kind of do the same process, and we can just copy our decryption key right here, so it'll be a little easier. So if we go here, go ahead and hit paste. Now we're going to go ahead and copy this line of code and hit Control C. And now what we're going to do is go ahead and back out to our PSV image tools right here. Go ahead and just click this, and then in our address bar, like we did for the first time, go ahead and hit CMD. And now as shown here, go ahead and hit Control V and hit enter. So now what it should be doing is adding the files to the certain directories as shown here. And if we go back to our GitHub, it will tell us which ones we need. So basically, if it's done correctly, all of our outputs should be looking like this soon. And then we're going to be focusing on the 10th step, which is right now. Let me just verify if my thing did it correctly. So as shown here, yours should be looking like this. So what we could do now is go ahead and exit out of our command prompt and now focus on the 10th step. So what we got to do is remove the game_DEC folder and add, and also your PSV image tools have copied there, and then refresh database in QCMA. Now you need to copy back the modified backup to your PS Vita, launch Content Manager, and basically from here. Okay, so this is pretty much the easiest part from here. What we need to do now is we got to go ahead and delete this out from here. And now we basically don't even need these files right here. And this is basically our new version of the game. So what we need to do is go ahead and hit Control-C and then go back into Documents. From here, guys, go to PS Vita, go to P Game, and then this is basically our ALID. Yours will be different as I stated before. And then just go ahead and paste the game right here. And basically now we have rewritten over our original file. So now we have the modified files. Now what we need to do is go ahead and basically go back to our Vita and then launch this process. But before we do that, let's go ahead and minimize this step right here. Go ahead from here, go to QCMA, go to refresh database, because this is required for this process. Because what this is doing now is basically researching or basically trying to find the new update that we just created for our database. So once you get this notification, it should be done. And now what we're going to go to is back onto our PlayStation Vita and then copy over our new demo that has the Trinity Hack installed onto it. And then basically from there we should be able to run, you know, some exploits. So I'll meet you guys back onto my to my Vita. As shown here, guys, you should be back on your PlayStation Vita. What you want to go to now is go ahead and hit Content Manager. Go ahead and start up the device as shown here. And then once you do that, go ahead and hit copy, because we're trying to copy the content from our PC. So where we want to go to now is from our PC to our PlayStation Vita. Go ahead and hit Applications. And then from this part, make sure, of course, your USB is connected to your PC as shown here. And then from right now, go ahead and hit PlayStation P/Other, and then go ahead and hit copy, because this version is basically the version that has the Trinity exploit in it. It may take a little while for me to showcase this on the screen as of right now, and I do apologize for the screen recording because it's using an Apple iPhone. But once this process is done, I'll show you guys in a second. Alright guys, so as shown here, basically Loco has been finished copying from my PC to my PlayStation Vita. If I go ahead and back out to my main menu as shown here, basically your app should look different from your original demo, and you should have like the Trinity logo as shown here. What you want to do now is go ahead and hold down your PlayStation button, turn off your Wi-Fi, and also turn off your system. The reason why we want to do that is to install our hack, basically for the very first time, not to have any other programs running in the background as well. So once you reboot your Vita, guys, make sure you have no downloads running, make sure you don't have any of the applications running in the background, and the first step you want to do is just go ahead and re-enlist the app, or basically just go back into Trinity. So as shown here, what I'm doing now is doing the same steps as I just stated. Going ahead and go to Trinity. Make sure that your Wi-Fi is enabled for this part. I did forget to do that for that step, but that's fine. All you would have to do is just hold down your PlayStation button, go ahead and basically exit out of Trinity, and then just relist, or basically go into Trinity again, excuse me. And then after a very few seconds, it shouldn't take too long, you should see some very cool matrix code, and I think that was really cool for TheFlow to incorporate that into this new hack. I think that was a really sweet touch. What it will do now is basically boot into another application. If you guys remember H-Encore, it's kind of like the same thing. You'll be able to install Vita Shell as well as Henkaku itself. And now as shown here on the screen, I'm able to run any type of homebrew, because I basically upgraded my Vita from 3.65 Enso to basically 3.70 to show you guys this tutorial. If you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like below, and please be sure to check out any of my other content for my Vita, or I have basically a lot of Vita tutorials. I have a bunch of PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 3 tutorials as well. With that being said, my name is Nagato and I'm signing out. Thank you guys for watching.
Nice and silky smooth.